Welcome to MIAA Weekly. I am joined on time.
It's a miracle.
I know you can't even get that grin off your face.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah. John's here on time, so I'm not sure. I don't have to filibuster for a while. It's going to be an odd moment. But, John, we're going to go ahead and talk through some of our action this week, and we're going to have a special guest. What are your thoughts about that, buddy?
I'm excited for both things. I figured you might want a softball update from the game I was just at. No,
Not really.
You want to talk football? Fair enough.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Well, and we're going to kind of rearrange some things, John. We're going to do our players of the week and all that stuff after we review the games. We don't want to give any more spoilers than we already do with our stuff. So let's go ahead and kind of pop on in with the first result that we're going to end up talking about. Kind of a big one, one that we had looked at for on our national show, Inside D2 Football, about this is going to be one of the bigger contests of the week, and it was number 8 coming on in UCO against an unranked Northwest Missouri. And that said, certainly some of those things changed with this, but one team's no longer ranked.
I was going to say that number next to the team goes to the other team now. So
yeah, and now the other squad is ranked. So it's kind of wild the way that changed the way it did, but a real kind of a one-sided game. John, we're going to watch video of it here momentarily, and then we'll kind of go ahead and talk our way through how we saw the action. We're starting off here with Chris Runke going ahead and getting loose and doing more running in this football game, John, than I was kind of expecting. And then he goes ahead and shows a gear that I got to be honest, I didn't know he had right here.
I joked with Chris after the game that he's supposed to be the passing quarterback.
I was just going to say, all of a sudden he got pressure from the other guy because he runs so well. Now he's got to run too. No. William Mason going ahead and doing some hard running here for Central Oklahoma, but they're having a hard time kind of keeping up in this one as the Bearcats are attacking defensively, doing some nice things, rallying to the football. And at the same time on offense, I thought they were doing a nice job of mixing things up quite a bit, John. And, we're going ahead and seeing, some plays here from a variety of different players. And then Erwin Nash, their addition at wideout. We go ahead and we see, with a score, and this Northwest team, John, this was a big contest for them, and for them to pass with flying colors the way they did here, and for the defense to attack the way they did, I thought really, I didn't really think that we would be here with them by the end of September. And John, the way they did it here in this one, I think it's very easy to go ahead and say they're up there for the conference race now and right in the middle of it. What was your take?
Yeah, they obviously played really well in that game. That's where I kind of was with them. I liked what I'd seen early, as I think anybody who was watching them had, but you kind of wanted to see it with a true test game like UCO. And I know they're 2-2, but I mean, those losses to being the Northwest and then Permian Basin, those are quality opponents. And one of those wins is over Pittsburgh State. So I don't think we should write off UCO quite yet, but it was an impressive performance. As you can see, they're holding them under 300 yards. I think as much as the offense was impressive, putting up 38 points, I was just as impressed with the defense. So
yeah.
As D Davis says in the chat right now, put the word out, we back. Yeah, Northwest fans, I think, are feeling pretty good about what they got so far, and I think they're feeling pretty good about the guests we have today.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring him on in, and I would imagine some folks are probably tuning in to go ahead and see a little bit of who we have on our show. We're bringing on in head coach John McMenamin. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. It's fun to be here, and I know both of you well, and appreciate your work. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Coach, I got to ask. I saw you at the end of August. You and I chatted. You took the field at Mankato, And I felt like you guys were kind of still figuring it out there. Boy, I tell you, I'm not having those same comments right now. Do you feel like you guys have had a chance since that ball game to really gel a bit offensively, get a little bit of the 1-2 punch with the quarterbacks, and tell me a little bit about kind of your thoughts about where you guys are at with that?
Yeah, I do. I remember our conversation greatly, and we were confident, going into that game, and then we ran into a buzzsaw that game. We had a small hurricane come through, a sunny day hurricane during that, which was a first, but it was kind of symbolic of our day there. And so we just knew we had to come back to work a little bit and work a little harder because we weren't, on the same page. I thought, the best part of it was, we came out at halftime. I've told you this, and our guys fought, and I thought we had a much better second half, and we put some scores together. We moved the ball, and so we had a little bit of that confidence then going into the next game, and we went into practice and said, okay, there's no magic pill we're gonna have. We gotta play more guys. We got to get more people involved, and like you said, gel's a great word. Is we got to just like execute, a little better. And I think execution is something that you're chasing constantly. And we just told our guys today. We said, hey, listen, the first 3 or 4 games, teams lose more games than they win. They find a way to lose them, and the rest of the way out, it's going to be the best executing team. Everybody's going to be pretty good and pretty well set, oiled up, and the machines is going to be running well, which I think we're getting to that point. And so now we got to raise our level even more. And so we've been playing a couple different quarterbacks on offense, and we've had a lot of guys contribute. And I think that's been the best part of this team is we've had contributions from all 3 phases. I don't think we're great in any one of those 3, but I think we're good to above average, in all 3 of them, and we play our ass off. And I think that gives us a chance in some of these games. So our kids are buying into that, and they, hopefully when we turn the film on, you see guys that play hard and care about each other. And I think that'll take us a ways as we go throughout the season.
Coach, let me ask you before I let Dykstra get too much. Before I get him, he gets to see you all the time, Coach.
He has to answer my questions.
But you were kind of alluding to some of the different aspects on your football team. For people tuning on in, they go ahead and they see that you guys kind of have, this 2 quarterback thing going on a little bit here. Tell us a little bit about the dynamic that you have going on there.
Yeah, we've got a kind of 2 different kids there at different stages of their lives. And it's a great thing, because it keeps, everybody fresh. But, Chris Ronke's, he's a pro's pro. If you ask what a quarterback should be doing in a meeting and about learning and the cerebral side of it, he's exactly that, and has played a lot of football, and, is a great kid, a great human. He's going to be a very successful, in whatever he does. He's passionate. So he's got a lot of talent, and can really spin the ball. And then it's been more like, okay, let's try and change the narrative with him a little bit in the direction that he's going in, and funnel him a certain way so that we can try and avoid some of the errors that were made last year. Quarterback's a premium position, and there are no great teams without a great quarterback. Right. And we've got to try and get to that. And he has those capabilities, and it was like, okay, how do we minimize the critical errors, that can really hurt us? And I think he's done a good job of doing that. And we want to preach that, there's no fear of failure. Every quarterback's going to make mistakes, and that's why you have a team and you have complementary football. But I was trying to harness him because he's very smart, and he really believes in what's being said. And sometimes he's too smart, and it's almost like I got to dumb Chris down a little bit, and just say, quit thinking so much. We're going to put the guys in a good position. I just need you to make, a couple reads and then move on. And so he's more of a finished product, where Z, Z was like a 4-string quarterback coming out of spring. He was just a guy that was here. He's a great kid. He's like a 43-inch vertical 360 dunk guy. He's super athletic, but we didn't really know what we had in him. And we saw it in practice, and at the spring game we had like 2 scrimmages in the spring, and he didn't really practice great, but in those scrimmages, he sure played pretty well. And then he stayed here this summer, and he's he wants to learn. He's a redshirt freshman. He's going through that. And then, we brought a transfer quarterback in by the name of Mason Shorb, who was close to starting. Was probably going to start, and then he gets hurt right before the season. And all of a sudden, and then we had our third string guy also got hurt. So we only had 2 quarterbacks, and Z was all of a sudden number 2. And so he got like a lot of reps in fall camp and just slowly started getting better and better and better. And we're like, you know what? He needs to play. Number one, we got to develop the guy because Chris is graduating. But he's a different. He's a change of tempo. He's a little bit different, and he's been a pleasant surprise of what he does because he's just a little bit different. He's very. Both those kids are athletic. As you saw, Chris is. You don't think it, but he's fast. He's actually pretty agile, and then Z Owens is super athletic, super fast. He might be the fastest kid on our team. Can really jump, throw. So his is just not. Now we got to accelerate his learning curve. Because you go from scout team to facing Mankato and facing the Kingsvilles and the UCOs, and they're throwing all sorts of coverages at you. It's like, okay, let's slow the game down, find a couple of key points that we got to lock into, and then execute. And so we're kind of balancing those two because they're at 2 different spots and putting them together. And they've sure done a good job. And Coach Bozen, is our quarterback coach that sees them a lot every day. He's connecting the dots with them, and hopefully we keep them rolling and keep them upright and keep having success.
Yeah.
Coach, the offense is fun to talk about, but let's flip to the other side. I think after the UCO, the theme of your presser was a lot about Coach Boswick, and a lot of times new coach, you come in, completely new staff, but you inherited a DC. I know that you go quite a ways back with. So just what have you seen from your defense early in this season and what Chad's doing with those guys?
Coach Boswick, Chad's done a great job. He's been ready a long time, and it's been fun to see him have fun with the kids and let his guard down. The kids just love him, and they play their butts off for him. And, all the defensive coaches do a great job. I mean, they're good humans. And I think, the more that the players understand that, we're all in this together, and there's another side to just wins and losses, to this. It's about relationships. It's about, forming that, forging that, friendship, that bond, that lifelong, once a Bearcat, always a Bearcat mentality. And once they trust you, they'll do anything for you. And Chad has that trust. So what I really have been impressed with Coach Bostwick is, it's 2 games in a row where, they hit us with a couple things early, and, just like that, he made an adjustment and it went away. And, that's what you got to have, in a DC, and he's doing great. All those coaches are doing great. And it's been so fun to be a part of. I tell them every day, it's like, it's a blessing. It's unbelievably awesome to be part of a team with a great defense. And I've been on teams with great defense. I don't mean that negatively, but I mean, Texas A&M, Kingsville, Washburn, UCO, the offense didn't really light it up early. And the defense, kept getting 3 and outs, and punts. And, me as a offensive coach, I started getting impatient, how much longer is our defense going to hold up before, the dam breaks, if you will, and they start scoring, and it never happens. And they just let us kind of get in a rhythm. And we've seen a lot of different things defensively the first few games, and we slowly but surely, we figure it out and then get going. And so it's another group that I don't know that there's, anybody that you say is like, man, this dude is just unblockable or unbelievable or anything. But I can tell you there's 5 or 6 guys that I don't know that there's anybody else in the country that cares more about their team more than them. And they're all our seniors. And so it's been just a true blessing to have those guys, just take ownership of that defense, of the 2025 team, and just run with it. And I kind of just sit back and watch them play, and it's a blast.
Coach, obviously you're a guy who's more on the offensive side of the football. How would you, if you were going to go ahead after, we're about a month into the season, we're at the last day of September.
Yeah.
If you had a report card for your offense right now, what type of grade would you give it? And give me some of your thoughts as to how you would arrive at that.
Whew, that's a good question.
Or if you didn't want to commit to a grade, we'll just take some of your feedback.
All right. Here, I would say I would say we're at a B right now, and we've shown glint. We've had some A tests that we've turned in. We got A's on, and then we got a few tests. We got some C's on. We've got a couple questions we didn't answer on some of those tests, that hurt the grades. But we are getting better, and what I'm really excited about is our kids are starting to understand, like spatial awareness, timing, what their roles are, how it fits in, and that makes them dangerous, and that makes them understand like where to get. We need to get to this point on the field at this time. Ball just ball security just
Yes.
off my shelf there. So we're getting better at the timing, of it. And so I think, we got a chance to get better, and our guys are knowing their roles and kind of taking advantage of it. So I think we got a lot of room for improvement. I think we've shown really good flashes. I mean, especially in the second half of games. That's what gives me hope. That's when you really want to be playing good. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I know we severely outscore our opponents in the second half, which means I think we're making good adjustments. I think we're getting stronger as the games go along, and guys are fresh. So I hope that continues. But, I think we need to get to that A. And I think the more consistent we get at, as the quarterbacks keep developing and keep getting better, and we, keep getting a little more consistent in the red zone, I think you'll see that grade trend upwards.
Coach, I'm going to steal a question from our comments here. Your old Chris Ferguson, who has interviewed you before as well,
Yep.
He says, I wonder what Coach's biggest challenge when he arrived at Northwest was. And you've kind of, for people who don't know, you obviously played here and had been here before, but hadn't coached here before. So, what was that biggest challenge when you got here?
Yeah, Chris, that's a great question. The biggest challenge is kind of just, when you get to the organizational side of things, things were done here in a great manner. I mean, it's such a tradition-rich program that, I think Coach Wright was in the program, since 2004, and he's a legend here as well, and then, it goes Coach T and Coach Dorrell, or Coach Boswick, and then Coach Dorrell, and then Coach Wright. And if it ain't broken, you don't fix it. And so I think things stayed, a certain way for so long that when you got here, you kind of had to make some changes, not wholesale changes, but, you're not going to, if something's broken down or you got to rebuild something, you don't hire the same contractors that built it the first time, that these are breaking down. And so you got to make some, that kind of causes some concern amongst players and staff, and just say, well, what, we haven't done it like this for a while. This isn't the way we did it. And you kind of just get to that point where you got them convinced enough that this is the way that we're going to do it. Doesn't mean it's 100% the right way or the best way, but this is our way. This is 2025's team, and this is our way. So changing some of those things in the organizational side with how things were done, and, bringing in, really a completely new staff, to that, because it wasn't like, this place was completely broke or they weren't doing a good job. There was still tradition here, and you change that dichotomy and that dynamic up, is tough. And, even in that first game, if we're being honest, all these guys, when we work together the first game, there's that organization has got to be tip top. And we learned some things in that first game that, okay, we're not where we need to be yet, from coaches to players, to organization, to just communication. From that standpoint, I think that got a lot better as we went on. But I would it's probably a long, winding answer, Chris, to your question, but the organizational piece of, just moving forward with what I think needs to be done to make us relevant and competitive versus what was done, and, balancing that act.
Coach, you mentioned some of that tradition. This is a guy I think of when I think of the tradition there at the program.
Both those guys.
Yeah. You know what? Tell me a little bit about, obviously you coming back to Northwest after, having been a player, and how does your relationship with Coach Churchman kind of play into all of this?
Yeah. I mean, you talk about a special human being. Both those guys are. And that Dr. Pat Haar has been here and probably just as important. Well, not quite as important as Coach T, but he's right there. And he's a dear friend of mine as well for a long time. But Coach T, really special spot in my heart. As a coach, he really kind of transformed my life, a little bit and made sure I was sitting in the right direction, because I was on the other side of this desk here, a couple times for the wrong reasons talking to Coach. And, he kind of got me straight. And then, what I learned from him the most was I probably had deeper conversations and more conversations when I was done playing. And I think that's what gets lost in a lot of this is, Coach T was so special because he cared about you and you knew it. And then, when you're done playing, he found you, he'd call you, he'd check in with you. I mean, any game that we had or wherever I was at, he didn't have to do it, but he'd follow up with you. And so it really just made an impression with me about, okay, this is, if I ever get a chance to do something as a head coach the right way, I mean, this is the blueprint I want to use, and the way he hired his staff and what he let them do, and loyalty mattered, and, just the non-transactional side of things with him. And so he was huge. And then, when the interview process was going on and to reach out and talk to him, that has to be tough when you got two former players, vying for the same thing. And, just to get his blessing and to hear him talk, it just, I guess I didn't think it'd be anything bad from him, but it means something when it comes from him. And he was genuinely excited about it. And for me to get here, and it's been just so great. I mean, you talk about a perfect sounding board, to have in your backyard. And he doesn't try and be in the way he doesn't want. He just comes by all the time. And I'll never forget, he walked out on the field after we lost to Mankato. And, he's like, I know the score didn't reflect it, but we're better. And you're not defined by one game. You got a great thing going here. And you talk about like just charging me up, just those two sentences, which he didn't have to do, but that's what makes him great, is he knows what to say and when to say it. And so I'm grateful that he's here and he's a part of it. And he still is a huge part. He comes by 3-4 times a week. And he's still got it. If you're not doing something right, he's going to tell you. And, change that and change this and go through it. But I don't know what we do without him, because he's, I said the other day, if you looked up what a Bearcat was, I said it was Chad Bostwick, but, Coach T is probably number one and Chad might be number two. But he's just the epitome of what created Bearcat Nation, and the blueprint he laid is something that I'm following, as closely as I can to try and replicate, as close as we can, that success, that he's had. And I don't, that's going to be pretty tough to do, but if we can get close, I'd be really happy.
Sure.
Coach, we talked about all the weapons on the offensive side of the ball, but maybe the biggest jump or the greatest area of improvement might be that offensive line. They've been really solid this year. I know Coach Prosser obviously takes a hands-on approach with those guys. Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen from the O-line and just how big it was to bring in Coach Prosser as your OC with his offensive line experience as well.
Huge. The offensive line coach is, especially on offense, that's your number one hire. You've got to have a great O-line to be successful. And Coach Prosser he's the best at it. He's one of the best in the country. Our kids mimic his passion. I mean, Coach Prosser, I thought I was fairly animated on the sideline. I might have met my match with Coach Prosser there. He gets into it, but it's good because the kids' passion's what we preach. And Coach Prosser is very, very passionate. And you can be hard on kids and coach them hard when they know you love them. And, just like last night, he has, all of them over and he makes, 4 or 5 pork butts and, they have a dinner, but they're always together. They're doing that. And so they love him and they play for him. And that's been the biggest, I agree with you. That's been the biggest jump is for us to be good. We got to be a physical football team on both sides. And I didn't think we were last year. And there's a lot of the same guys there that are now physical football players. And it's just he pours himself into them. And we don't do a lot of things, but we work on technique and fundamentals a ton. And we put an emphasis on them. Hell, our O-linemen, anytime road trip or anything, they get to eat first. And that's the only chance, they get for glory because O-linemen are kind of like mushrooms. They just get pooped on and kept in the dark most of the time, and they got to go out and go. So we try and glorify them as much as we can when we can, especially in the D line as well, and take care of them because they're the engine to this, a car that we're driving here. And so I've been really, really pleased with the way they come. And I think we're a more physical football team, and you've got to be able to run the ball to win these games. And if you're going to play late in the year, you got to be physical. And, I don't know if we will, but I know that we're on our way to being a physical football team, which will help.
Coach, upcoming, we're taking a look at your schedule that remains. And you guys have, you're going to be playing Central Missouri after your bye week, which is this week currently. You were at Central Mo as the OC, from my recollection, right around 15 to 19, somewhere in that neighborhood. Exactly. Does that sound about right?
It's exactly right.
Okay, just before COVID, and had some pretty good offenses there. This is going to have to be a little bit of a weird experience for you, heading back and being on the other sideline. And, also going against some people that and Coach Lamerson, Coach Wright. I mean, give me some of your thoughts about how you envision that trip.
Yeah, it's definitely a nostalgic trip. Those were 5 great years of my family's life. It's where Andrew and I really, our kids, we had them all along, but they started getting older, where they were involved in a lot of things that were mule oriented, and in school. And so, some of our best friends are still there. And I still got to hear from Greg Hassler, all the time. I'll still bug him for some questions or what he's got going on. He'll probably send a text tonight making fun of my hair or something. But a lot of good people there. I mean, it's just that's a special spot for sure. But we've got a goal here. We've got a mission here. And just like when AD came to Maryville last week, I mean, he's a legend here and we were good, but I didn't want him to win here. Wasn't that excited for him. And they're going to have the same mentality for us. It's like, we're close. And, with Coach Lamberson and, Coach Novak and I coached together at Wayne State together. Coach Wright recommended him. There's a lot of connections there. Coach Holtzclaw and I go way back. So there's a lot of connections, there. But at the end of the day, our kids know that we're there to go 1-0 on the 11th. And that's a great football team. It's going to be a tough-ass game, with it. And it'll be, fun to drive there. And you get there and you kind of talk to some of the people. But, when those whistles sound, it's we're going to do whatever we can, bite, claw, hold, to find a way to, just to win by 1. And then after the game, we'll be tight again. And forever we'll be with all those guys. But there's a lot on the line, with this, as the rest of the game's on there. I don't even like looking at all those schedules. I kind of just knew we were at Central, and now I know there's Hayes and Kearney, and there's a lot of really good teams, left to play. So we'll try and knock this one out first. And they got UCO this week, so it'll be good to see, what they do. But they're a great team. They're coached well. They've been good. So we'll have to have our A game for sure.
Coach, before we let you go, I do want to make mention that we've got some folks in the comments who are pretty excited by the fact that you're joining us here. And you can see some of these as we're kind of popping them on up. And, some words of encouragement. And there's, as you already know, there's a certain buzz that's happening there. And, I mean, heck, we even have even opposing fans wishing you luck, kind of luck.
Right. The girl is all right. We go way back.
And you know what? I spoke to a mutual friend of ours, and who is really enjoying the time that you are coaching the squad here and some of the good things you're doing. And it kind of brought me back to, I'm mentioning our guy, Brandon Meisner. And Coach, back when you visited with us back in 2021, after your Wayne State squad beat Mankato, you can see our guy Brandon up there. I'm not sure what you said, Coach, but I look fairly disinterested at that point. But our guy Chuck in the middle is kind of glowing a little bit. I'm not sure if an alien jumped in with him, but I thought I would do that for our guy Brandon, who he wanted to wish you good luck. I talked with him last few days, and I'm sure that he'll be over the moon the fact that we had you on. And
man, yeah.
I want to go ahead and thank you once again for joining us. And Coach, good luck the rest of the way. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And that takes me way back. I remember that night. That was a lot of fun. I was very nervous, and you guys were great. And hi to Brandon as well. And I hope you're doing well and keep following us. But you guys are doing a great job with the show and the broadcast, and the amount of hours and everything you put in. There's more people than you know that are tuned into this and follow it, and it's fun. For us all to be a part of. So I appreciate you letting me be a part of it and the Bearcats being a part of it. And we hope to keep representing the right way. And if there's anything we can ever do for you, just please let us know.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, see you guys. Coach. Thank you.
See ya.
Good to get a visit from Coach Mac right there. By the way, John, I don't know if you noticed, but my dog just made a run in on the show.
Man,
there.
Willie's everywhere.
I know Willie is got talked about on the Northern Sun show. All of a sudden now he's trying to get in on the bed. I know we're gonna have to have a little talk later, but that's another story altogether. Let's go ahead and we're just finishing up with Bearcat stuff. And John, I did want to mention the fact a little bit of a milestone here with your guy John Coffey. Talk about that, would you?
Yeah, Coach just talked about guys who you look up and they're Bearcats. John Coffey. I mean, Coach Churchma, Doc Hard, those guys, John Coffey's right up there with them. I mean, 500 and now it's 501 with the UCO game, straight football broadcast. That is an incredible thing, and it still kind of blows my mind to think about. It goes back to some point in the 80s, and he's got a pretty good record with that over that time as well. So he's been here through it all with Coach Churchma, Coach Boswick, Coach Doral, Coach Wright, and now Coach McMenamin. So really, really congrats. They honored him before the game, John Coffey, with the football and everything, and really, really a cool thing. And he got also a shout out from Tommy Thrall, who's the Northwest grad, who's the Cincinnati Reds radio guy,
right.
And John Rooney with the St. Louis Cardinals. So they played that on the Jumbotron, and John's a big Cardinals guy, so I'm sure he got a kick out of that.
Sure, he'll be loving the fact that my Cubs won their playoff game today. Just had to point that out.
You got to bring it down as we honor.
Sorry. Not really that sorry, actually. John, I'm going to have you go ahead. If you could start us on off on our first game after we get done with Bearcat Weekly there. And the Pitt State and Emporia. Help me kind of unpack what we had here. I thought Emporia, and you tell me, John, I thought Emporia competed fairly well against what I see as the best team in the conference.
Ooh, best team in the conference. We got out of Bearcat Weekly right away there. So I like that. It's one of those games where you look at it and I mean, Pitt State had control the whole way, really. I mean, Emporia did take a lead in this game in the second quarter. They were up 16-14, but you never really felt like Emporia was going to win this. But for me, it's just impressive seeing Emporia go out and compete with a team like Pitt, who I agree is among the class in the conference right now. And Emporia had Ben Harris throw for over 400 yards. They had a lot of good things going offensively, a couple 100-yard receivers, and they're certainly looking more dangerous than I was honestly a little worried about Emporia headed into this game. And I think they showed some stuff, but Pitt also coming off the 4-game gauntlet they had to open the season, I think you could have seen a little letdown and maybe this is a little bit of a trap game, and they didn't let that happen. So they were able to get the win. A whole ton of rushing yards for Pitt. Over 400 yards gained rushing and only 109 yards passing. So they went and just tried to hit Emporia in the mouth, and it worked to the tune of 42 points. So I think both teams got some positives they can take out of that.
Well, 600 yards of offense by Emporia, over 400 through the air. And it tells me that the firepower offensively is certainly not gone. And, that was the thought that we had a little bit of a concern about. We'll have to see what they look like weeks from now. We're still pretty young in the season.
There's that kind of middle to bottom part of the MIAA is anybody's guess at this point, as we talked about a couple weeks ago.
I feel they're middle, but you use the word bottom. But John, I will let you now talk a little bit about this game between Fort Hays and Missouri Western. What were your thoughts there?
Pour one out for Coach Fenwick. Man, those boys have had a rough run of luck lately. And it's every way early in the season that you can lose a football game. They've unfortunately done it. And once again, down 8, super similar to last week. Had the ball, I believe, a 1st and goal. If not, it was inside the 10. I think it was technically at the 1-yard line they could get a 1st down. But anyway, they had that, and again, under a minute left, chance to win the game, and just couldn't get the ball in the end zone when they needed to there, and fell short. They had a receiver drop a pass that would have not tied the game because they still needed the 2-point conversion. But boy, we've had a couple weeks in a row where you thought you were going to see what Coach Fenwick has for 2-point conversion plays, and you got to get the touchdown first, and they haven't been able to do it. So at Mo West, they play tough with everybody, but they just haven't been able to get over the hump. And to me, it's kind of similar to Emporia Pitt, where that's an impressive performance to hang with Hayes, a team we all think is pretty good. But eventually, you just got to start turning these into wins if you're Missouri Western. And I've listened to some post game and some after stuff from Coach Fenwick since, and you can tell the frustration's mounting. So
sure.
We'll see if they can maybe get over that hump this week.
I feel like when I saw them against Augustana, they've had a few of those almost games now kind of accumulating this year. And, we've got some people in the comments here. I'm hard-pressed to say if they're better or not, because the almost game tells me that they can play with just about anybody. But I don't know if that means they can beat them. It's one of those kind of things as
that's
well.
The problem when your one win is over Missouri S&T, and Missouri S&T catching strays on the MIAA pod. But, it's not like we were just saying with UCO where they have a win over Pitt to their resume already. Like, you gotta find a way to get one of these across the goal line here, literally and figuratively.
I didn't realize this. Nice crowd for Hayes in that one, huh?
Hayes always has a great crowd out there. One of the bigger stadiums in the MIAA. Add it to our guy K-Ferg's list of places to visit, because Hayes is a fun atmosphere.
I'll let you move ahead. Nebraska-Kearney goes up to 4-1 with a win over Washburn. Pretty tight football game. What did you take away from this one?
Yeah, I was following along with this. A really tight football game. Kearney could just never really get away from Washburn, and they were hanging in there. And I think a couple weeks ago we had the power rankings, and I said Washburn was kind of by themselves in 10th there, because not necessarily because they're a horrible football team or anything. Just I thought everybody was kind of significantly ahead of them. And the last couple of weeks with UCO and now Kearney, Washburn's starting to show that they're going to get somebody one of these weeks, and it's just who it's going to be. I was impressed with them hanging in there with Kearney and battling, but kind of the same as Mo West. They got to get over the hump here eventually.
Yeah, and we had seen there was a question in regards to did Isaiah Harris get hurt? And apparently kind of got hung up on a pass, got hit pretty good. And I'm going to say Jamez Ross. Is that how I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Out of Omaha. He's a freshman for him this year.
Yeah, he ran for almost 100 yards in the mix. He's in the shot right there. And not to say they're looking to spend any time without Isaiah, and let's
I was
hope that
gonna
he's back. But they were able to still kind of overcome things, considering the fact that he's kind of been their situation offensively.
I mean, yeah, he's been terrific. Ross, like I said, I saw him a little bit in that game they had last week, and when he split carries, and he did a really good job when Harris was out in the third quarter in that one. But it's still going from the best running back in the MIAA, and I'm starting to lose any doubt that that's true to a backup. They can still be above average. Giving up 24, the 31 points scored isn't the problem in this game, though. Giving up 24 to Washburn, I want to see kind of if they're going to play with the big boys, which they've already lost to Hayes, but if they're gonna have one of those real big upsets, I think we need a little bit more from Kearney's defense.
Fair enough. Moving ahead, we've got UCM.
Speaking of defense,
hanging a 62 number on Southern here, 62-10 final. A little bit of a story with the quarterback situation. Let's unpack a little bit of that if we could, John.
Yeah, he's injured. I know there was some doubt, but I heard from. I don't know if he wants to be public on this, but
that's Jordan Pachot, who had put up 400 yards passing a week previous.
Yes. Jordan Pachot was injured this week, and Donovan Omalo, something like that. He came in, and obviously there's a 62 on the scoreboard, so he did all right. But Pachot was injured, and I think his future and when he's coming back is still kind of up in the air. But Omalo did a good job in that game. And it'll be interesting to see because their schedule really heats up coming up with UCO this week and then Northwest the week after that. So it'll be interesting to see how the quarterbacks kind of sort themselves out. The big thing, as we have in the comments, is those running backs are really stepping up. Big game for Boyd in this one.
Kind of his coming out party, I thought, Latravius Boyd.
Yeah, which Tank Young, I don't think had any carries, so I don't know if that was a switch there or if there's an injury I'm not aware of there as well. But, boy, it worked with him and Omalo in that one. And then the other side for Missouri Southern, we kind of talked them up last week and playing with Northwest the way they did, and they've been competitive in every game so far this year. 2 wins, obviously. And then 62-10. You gotta kind of regroup and circle the wagons coming into this week, I think.
Agreed. And I was making reference to Latravius Boyd because I'm kind of I guess a bit of a homer on him since he came from the Northern Sun. But he had 9 rushes, 114 yards, 2 touchdowns there, along a 63. Because if he gets loose, he's gone. And caught 4 balls for 46 yards. That's getting him much more involved in the offense.
Yeah.
And I think that he's a dangerous enough weapon that they really need to. And you got a chance to see a little bit of that here. They rushed the ball for over 300 yards in this contest, which is, I don't really think of UCM and rushing the ball for 300 yards, if I'm going to be honest.
It's not the Zabrowski way where he would lead them in rushing about every week with 60 yards or so. But they're finding a way to put up points, and they put up 62 of them this week.
Well, that's what we had for conference play, and leads us into the athletes of the week. We've got a few from Pitt here. We also have a guy that was on our Elite 100 team before the season began, John Johnson, linebacker for Fort Hays. I'll let you talk a little bit about our guys here.
Yeah, no big shocker there. We talked about the running that Pitt did this week. Cleo Chandler is kind of the returner to that offense from last year, and he went nuts there and had a really big day against Emporia. And then if you look at John Johnson, I was listening to the radio broadcast of that game while I was writing up my Northwest thing. And friend of the show, Tommy Rezach, the Missouri Western radio announcer was pretty much in awe of everywhere John Johnson was during that game, making plays, and just a really impressive game from Johnson there. And then Jalen Fruska, he's one of the best corners in the conference. They got him listed at corner.
Right.
He obviously made it for special teams, but that guy's just an athlete and kind of one of the leaders in a very talented secondary that I feel like we talk about every week for Pitt, just how good that back end is for them. And he's one of their guys back there. So three kind of household names taking the honors this week.
Absolutely. As we move forward to the standings for the league, got Northwest at the top. I'll be honest, I didn't figure that by the end of September, the Bearcats would be at the very top of the standings in the league, 3-0 in the MIAA. UCM, despite 2 losses out of conference, is still unbeaten in the MIAA. The team that I alluded to that I feel I just have the feeling in my heart that Pitt State is the best team in the conference, whether their record shows it or not. I think it's only a matter of time before that bears out because of the fact that they've played such a tough heavy front end to this. But what surprises do you see on the page right now, or is there any for you?
I don't think there's any shocker because if you just look at the page and you see UCO down in the bottom half of it, but they're not really because they're 2-1 in the conference. I know we've had debate because Missouri Western and Emporia State are the two. Man, you're so close to being kind of up there, and as we've talked about today, but they just haven't been able to get that win yet. I'm not shocked by Kearney. I think other people might be more. They still haven't had a shocking result one way or another to me. So I'm not surprised they are where they are right now. I think Northwest is the obvious one here that people didn't really see coming. I mean, I was higher than most because I liked where they were going, and I had them 4th in the league in my preseason poll. And
Sure.
That was quite a bit higher than, or not quite a bit, but that was higher than most. Most were 5th, 6th. So I think they're the clear surprise. But other than that, I'm not too stunned by where we're at this point, given who each team has played.
Fair enough. Let's take a look before we jump into our games. Let's take a quick look here at our top 25 poll. And here is the latest D2football.com top 25, the only one that matters. And as we're taking a look at this right now, we've got Pitt. They're at 8 right now. We're higher on them than the coaches, and I think we're still standing behind where we were fitting them for a good portion of time, even when they were winless. Pitt, we had your back.
We say this isn't standings. The coaches sometimes treat it more like standings.
You're exactly right. Northwest, we brought them in a little bit more. We're a little more bullish. We have them at 20. I think the coaches poll has them at 24, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And we have Hayes at 21. I don't know if they're in the coaches poll.
I don't believe so. I glanced at it earlier, but I can't.
We have a lot of respect
in the comments
for those difficult schedules. We look at that a little bit past. What are you 5-0 or aren't you, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's why I was just referencing with the standings and not being shocked. It's like, well, some of these aren't going to be where I project them to finish because they played tough teams already. Right. And some teams haven't played tough teams yet, so they're a little higher right now. So I think you kind of got to look at each resume and not just the records. But
there's a question that got brought up: who in the 21 to 25 range is going to lose?
I don't know everybody's schedule, but I don't think it'll be Hayes.
Carson Newman is trying to win a 3rd tough game in a row. They're playing Emory and Henry. They may be on that alert a little bit. You got Finley, for example. I think they're playing Walsh, who's also undefeated at this point. So you've got there is definitely a curse that if we put you in that 21 to 25 range and you haven't been in, look out that good things don't generally happen when we do that.
Tony's guys there at 25, they seem cursed by that more often than any team. So.
No, I don't disagree there. Now, there was a question that was asked earlier, or maybe it was a statement, more of a statement, I guess. Daryl had put in a pretty big drop with being beat by Northwest, and that was alluding to Central Oklahoma falling out of ours. I don't. This is where I look at it different. I look at it as, let's now, a month into the season, let's look at their resume for this year. What is their resume for this year? And UCO got blown out 2 times. They got blown out at UTPB. They kind of got blown out at Northwest. And they beat Pitt. Pitt misses a field goal at the very end. And Jed Huff was healthy for half of their points in that game. I just feel like they are not trending in the right direction right now. That's my take.
For me, sorry. Go ahead.
No, so that's kind of how I don't look at it as we move up or down a certain amount of spots. I'm reassessing them as a team because any of my residual thoughts, John, from 2024, now that we have a month in, are now off the page, and they were a part of why I had them up as high as I did previously. What are your thoughts?
Currently, they are just not the same team that we previously had at number 3 in the country going into the year. The injuries are the reason I'm dropping them.
No, and that's a big piece of this, yeah.
Because, their win over Pitt is among the best wins in the country still. Mm-hmm. Just straight resume, if I looked at it, it's like, okay, Permian Basin, number 7 team, Northwest, number 20 team, on the road, both those games, you lose them. You have a home win over Pitt. Like, just looking at their resume, they're definitely a top 25 team, I think, still for me. But it's the injuries that are beginning to mount up, and they're just not that team right now. I could definitely see them getting back into this poll, but until they show that that they're getting healthy and getting some of those guys that we had in the top 10 there, then I'm not going to put them there. They were close for me, but they weren't in my top 25 this week because of that.
No, and Doug brings up an interesting comment here. UCO will be back on that board soon. They better beat Central Missouri this week, or they won't be. It's that easy.
Get to that later. That's
they'll have 3 losses. They're gonna that's with 3 losses, you're not in the top 25 anytime soon. You know how that works.
We'll get to that.
Sometimes I'm right, and then sometimes I'm less right. But anyway, Greg, appreciate you tuning on in, and
we hopefully caught the reference that that Coach Mack made to him earlier.
Yeah. So and Greg, I appreciate this comment because I'll be honest, we like to think that we spend a fair amount of time really looking at how good these teams are playing, a little bit past some of the other things, the name, moving them up or down a certain amount of spots. Well, we take this pretty seriously. Now, Doug mentioning this, look for Huff to be back this week. I would love to see him back this week. Doug, remember you said that about 3 weeks ago and he wasn't back. So if he's back, he changes some of their season, I think. But they still need a downfield threat and be able to stretch the field. They missed that from a year ago, I think, quite a bit. So, John, let's go ahead.
This time it was all caps, though, Witt, this projection. I don't think he was all caps last time.
The all caps does change the temperature a little bit. I agree.
Yeah. No, Doug's a good. he's plugged in. We'll see if his prediction's right, though.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. We would love to have him back. I mean, he makes them all the better and more interesting. Absolutely. We're gonna go ahead and pop right on into our games here.
There we go.
And John, I did these this afternoon. in a mad dash. So if anything's mistaken, I'm
Now,
blaming Willie the dog. So
poor Willie's been taking strays.
he does. He's got to deal with it. He's surprised he hasn't tried to make a run in yet since earlier. So Fort Hays, Missouri Southern. In case you're just tuning in, you haven't seen the show before. Left side's always visitor. Right side's gonna be the home team. What do you got here, John?
It's hard to pick a team that just gave up 62 points. Hayes are still my guys. They made me question it a couple times this year. But I think when they get matched up with the team from the lower half of the league, they usually take care of business pretty well. Give me Hayes by a couple scores in this, even in Joplin. My fighting Atiba Bradleys have to prove it to me again after last week.
I feel like Southern is going to upset somebody here in the middle of the season, but boy, it's hard to have some faith after what we saw a week ago. I'm also taking Hayes in that spot. Ooh, interesting one here. Kearney going to go play at Pitt. Give me some thoughts here, guy.
More interesting for you than me, I think. Give me Pitt pretty handily in this one. I think we've seen it with Kearney. They are an improving team. They're a good team, but when they play against the big boys, they tend to struggle a little bit. And we saw it with Hayes when they played them earlier this year. Give me Pitt pretty handily in this one, but I'm curious if you have a slightly different take than that, just judging by the way you introduced this.
Well, I know you're trying to give Kearney the can't compete with the big boys treatment here.
Well,
But I think that they are physical enough of a football team and figuring it out a little bit better offensively than maybe they have in the recent past. I realize TJ Davis isn't coming through that door anytime soon, but at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and I will take Pitt, but I think Kearney takes them through three quarters. I think we have a tight ball game. I think Pitt is the better team in that fourth quarter. I think it'll be a well-fought game.
David Brooks has never seen a game that's popped up on the screen for Pitt where he hasn't been incredibly nervous. And as a team or as a guy who roots for Iowa State and the Minnesota Vikings and teams that blow games all the time, I respect his nervousness with every game we see each week.
I agree. Whoops! And you know what? Just like that, we have an erroneous graphic.
Uh-oh.
Exactly. How long it took this long for that to happen this year? I'm shocked. So, guys, if we were to go ahead and kind of revisit our schedule here,
this would be Missouri Western or Emporia State at Missouri Western for the Griffin.
Exactly. So without us being able to redo that on the fly, here is what we have for this one. We have Missouri Western. Do you like them or do you like Emporia? How do you see that one?
I think this is a true toss-up. We were talking about it before about how these are two teams in the bottom of the standings that we think could be better, but they just haven't been able to get over that hump yet. I think being at home at Spratt Stadium for the Griffins, I think I'm a little lower. Whoa, look at that. I'm a little lower on Emporia than you are, which is funny considering some of the comments we got earlier this season.
Yes.
But I think the Griffins find a way to get this done. I'm extremely concerned about Emporia's rush defense, and the Griffins are the type of team that can run all over you. So we'll see. It'll be a game in the trenches, and I think the Griffins win that game.
I have a little bit more faith that Emporia is going to get this thing going a little bit. So you and I differ on this one, and
the comments differ as well.
You know, I just right now the Griffins got to prove to me they're not an almost team, and you know what, they certainly could right here. I think this is our toughest one to pick, without a doubt, this week, John.
I might argue that with this next one. I struggled with this next one.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's go to what I consider to be the most interesting game of the week.
Okay.
And we've got Central Missouri heading on into UCO. We've got one of our folks here saying maybe some Jet Huff.
Doug, I'm counting on you.
Well, you know what? I think Huff has shown the ability to be a bit of a gunslinger with them to the point where it would potentially tip your pick here if you knew he was playing, for sure. But at the same time, Jalen Cottrell didn't play last week, was on the sideline for UCO. Apparently had an injury, wasn't able to go. They still have some pieces to get back on the field a little bit. Now, the UCM quarterback situation, I mean, we've got a few things to unpack here. John, which direction are you going with all of that said?
I'm picking UCO in this one, and if Jet Huff is back, I feel better about that pick even, but I'm picking them anyway. I don't know if we've seen, I mean, the 2 wins this year for UCM are Missouri Western and Missouri Southern. I know they just kicked the crud out of Missouri Southern, but they still haven't beaten a team that really has ever been considered for the top 25 type of team. And I know UCO is out of it right now, but they would be the best win that UCM has had this year. And I don't think they're going to get it done. I think UCO bounces back from last week and rights the ship a little bit and stays, as you said, this is a must-win game for them, and I think they find a way to get it done. Wesley with the smart pick there.
Honestly, I think it's kind of a bit of a must-win for both teams.
Yeah.
So with that said, don't worry, Lambo. I got you. John apparently doesn't have your back.
Nope.
So I just feel like they've got something going a little bit right now offensively. Frankly, a little bit with either quarterback. To the point I feel comfortable with that. We got the Rich Wright defense.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's quietly something that's getting better too. So I'm going to have to go ahead and take the Mules on the road. We had 2 differences right there. I'm going to have a chance to go ahead of you in the pick'em now, buddy.
You are. It'll be interesting. Probably like last week where we had 2 differences and we split the 2. So I think UCM and then Missouri Western probably getting the wins this week.
So this is our composite here for the pick'em. Do I have that right, John?
As we're running out of teams, this is getting a little shrunk on your screen here, but games this week. But yeah, as you can see, a lot of love for Pitt and Hayes. Not super surprising in either of those matchups, and pretty split among the panel there on Emporia and Mo West, and a couple people for UCM, but a lot of UCO love, which kind of surprised me. I thought I was going a little bit of an upset in that one, and apparently not so much. But the comment section would go the other way with a lot of Mules love coming in there.
Well, and our guy Brandon Meisner, founder of our website, and
he might have himself a text from AD after this one.
You know what? Brandon is with me on this, and he and I are both going with the Fighting Lambos on that. Now, before we go ahead and kind of wrap up the show, we do have a new segment tonight. Pretty exciting stuff, guys.
This one I get to make fun of Witt instead of the other way around.
Yeah, we'll see. Our graphics team spent countless hours coming up with the new bit that we got here. And hold on, let me give a little bit of a.
When they weren't doing Tony's comment from earlier about the Boss's Pizzas, so.
Yeah, I saw that. So we are going to have Witt's Crystal Ball. This is kind of your guide. I'm your guide to who's going to make the playoffs in each super region, and we are going to talk about the first version of this we're going to have right now in Super Region 4. John, for those just tuning on in, who's in Super Region 4 now?
Super Region 4, we as you guys who have been following know, it changed around from last year. The MIAA is now joining that Super Region along with the GAC, so better known as Harding's Conference. And then the Lone Star Conference, which has Angelo State, Permian Basin, some of those schools, West Texas A&M, Central Washington, and then the RMAC, which is the Colorado schools plus Chadron and some South Dakota in there as well with Black Hills State and South Dakota School of Mines. So as we talk about preseason, you don't have to go to Michigan, which is nice, but those are 4 of probably consensus the top 6 maybe conferences, top 7 in Division II. So it's not exactly a soft region either with who's all in here and
Right.
competing to get into the playoffs, let alone actually win the region. So have I filibustered long enough yet, Witt?
Yeah, you put the ball in the tee there for us. So the question becomes, well, we're going to look at this here in a moment because, I mean, it's a pretty big unveiling. Does every conference end up getting 2 teams in for all the different conferences you just mentioned? Or do we see something otherwise? So without any further delay, which crystal ball is showing me that the GAC is only going to get 1 team in this year? Because I think the next team up in that conference will end up with 2 losses. And I don't think they'll have a good enough strength of schedule to get in with 2 losses because they all play in a silo, and the highest strength of schedule they can have is dead level at 500. So with that said, who do I have making it in the tournament with 3 teams? And that is going to be the Lone Star, because the Lone Star, we've got Permian, we got Angelo, and we got Central Washington, all of which who have not gotten a loss yet. And now I think that they will all 3 beat each other and all end up with 1 loss and end up getting in. Then I think you're going to have Pueblo, and I think you're going to have Western Colorado. I think they will both 1, 2 losses. Good strength of schedule for Pueblo, for example. Western Colorado better not lose 2 games because their strength of schedule doesn't look so hot. Then I think in the MIAA, I think Pitt, where I already think that they're going to make it.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's a coin flip. Is it Hayes or is it Northwest? I think the winner of that football game makes it on in. And right now, because of the fact that we're kind of in a little bit of Northwest love, I'm going to go with Northwest for graphic purposes. But this is how I see in my crystal ball at the way too early crystal ball on the last day of September. This is what I have here. Now, John, in the comments, feel free to poke holes in what I have up there right now.
I think your scenario there is very possible, but it's very reliant on, or maybe not very reliant is the wrong word, but I think the way this happens the easiest is if those Lone Star teams all split with each other. And that could happen, but I think if one of those teams emerges with 2 losses and loses to both the other ones, it makes it pretty difficult for them to get in. And then I think you would have your 1-loss GAC team. Now, if all the GAC has more than 1 loss, then again, that opens it up for this scenario. I think the more likely scenario is 2 from each conference.
Sure.
And I would replace Central Washington, I think, because I think those 3 teams are all playoff caliber teams, but I think Central Washington I would pick them to lose to both the other 2. I would replace them with Southern Arkansas and get 2 in from the GAC. and it would be two teams. And like you said, the MIAA is going to beat up on themselves. I don't see Western Colorado losing a game this year. So I see them and Harding probably going undefeated, and the winner of that Permian Basin Angelo State game also being undefeated at the end of the season here. And then I see one team from each conference getting in. But I could be wrong, especially if like you said, some chaos in the Lone Star and you have a tri-champion with all those teams beating each other.
Jetter thinks I am creating bulletin board material for Lambeau.
Boy.
I am not. I actually like Lambeau. And keep in mind, I'm the one who picked UCM this last week. The other guy, not so much.
Lambeau's problem is they've already got. I mean, they need to win the league to get in if you're UCM at this point, because you've got those 2 losses. So if you have more losses in the league, it's gonna be tougher to get in. So Lambeau needs to run the table. And I know you know that, Jutter, but we're putting it out there for everybody else.
Well, I mean, he'll get one this week, and then he'll get one next week.
Yeah. Well, then we'll have
no comment from the Northwest Peanut Gallery on that. But anyway,
yeah. Well, then all of a sudden we're having a conversation. That MIAA could go about 100 different ways. Pitt can't lose another game either, even with that insane strength of schedule. So, I mean, they could potentially, but boy, you're cutting it close with 3 losses.
I think Pitt could get in with 3 losses.
I think they could. I don't.
The strength of schedule is going to be over the moon.
Yeah.
So, well, John, before we kind of wrap on up for tonight, we do want to make sure that not only, we want to always appreciate our relationship with the MIAA office and the MIAA network. Do you have a hot pocket ready? What was that?
That was an email in. I got some golf scores. You want me to read them?
No, we're just fine. Normally those kind of sounds come from my guy Tom on the Northern Sun show, because he doesn't know how to make his phone vibrate instead of ring. But that's
my phone is good. It's my computer that's now hooked up to my phone. So we'll remedy that next time, because it's gone off.
That's okay. 3 times are a charm. But and also we want to thank St. Joe's KQ2 ABC. And with that is our guy Anthony Crane, if my memory serves me right.
Anthony Crane, Brett Kennedy, Chris Roush, good crew over there. So appreciate them. Them kind of being the TV station that's always at Bearcat games and Griffin games for us.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate everybody for joining us, including Coach Mack at Northwest, making some time for us. And
Brandon with a good observation to close it out here too.
I see that. Lambeau is way too nice to dip into those waters. I would agree. So, well, great show, buddy. I appreciate you being on time. I mean, showing on up with us, and
we delayed it to 8.
So, and thank everyone for joining us tonight. Have yourself a great week and go see a football game this weekend. Thank you.